You think talking more makes you look valuable. It doesn't. Most of the time, it makes you easier to use, easier to copy, and easier to replace. You probably learned the opposite. Speak up, share your thinking, show initiative, be transparent, be authentic, keep everyone aligned. So you do. You explain your process in detail. You update people before they ask. You reveal what you're planning, what you're fixing, what you're worried about. You make your work legible. You make your intentions visible. You make yourself feel trustworthy by making yourself fully known. And at first it feels smart. People nod. They say you're collaborative. They say you're clear. They say they appreciate your openness. So you keep going. You give away how you solve problems. You reveal where the bottlenecks are. You expose what matters to you. You let people see what frustrates you, what excites you, what you're building toward. You think this creates safety. What it often creates is a map. And the people around you do not all use that map the same way. That's the part nobody says out loud. At work, information is not just communication. It is leverage, and the more freely you hand it out, the less control you keep over how you are perceived. This is the trap. You think you're being included in the game. What you're really doing is showing everyone your cards before the betting starts. Because most workplaces do not reward truth in its raw form. They reward timing. They reward positioning. They reward who gets associated with clarity, not who suffered to produce it. They reward the person who appears composed when the answer arrives, not the person who exposed every messy step it took to get there. That is why the person who talks less often earns more. Not because silence is magic, because restraint protects value. When you over-explain, you lower the perceived scarcity of your judgment. When you reveal every draft, every thought process, every uncertainty, people stop seeing the result as rare. They start seeing it as available, transferable, easy to absorb, easy to retell, easy to detach from you. This is where a lot of smart people get trapped. You assume recognition is tied to contribution. It isn't. Not automatically. Recognition is tied to narrative control. That sounds cynical. It is also operationally true. In most professional environments, your value is not measured directly. It is inferred through signals, through timing, through what people remember, through how easy it is to connect outcomes back to your name. And endless openness breaks that connection. Because once your ideas are diffused into the room, they stop feeling like they came from you. They become what we discussed. They become the direction we landed on. They become something we had been considering. They become everyone's idea in language and no one's debt in memory. You think visibility protects you, but there are two kinds of visibility. There is visible effort, and there is visible ownership. These are not the same thing. Visible effort often makes you look busy. Visible ownership makes you look promotable. The first one is noisy. The second one is expensive. And if you keep overexposing yourself, you get trapped in the first. You become the person who is always in motion, always sharing, always thinking out loud, always helping the room get smarter. But not necessarily the person the room credits when the move works. That difference changes careers. Because the workplace is not a classroom. It does not grade you for showing your work. It grades you for changing outcomes without creating unnecessary friction. And here is the uncomfortable part. The more you talk, the more data people have on you. Not just your ideas, your patterns. They learn what you fear. They learn what you care about. They learn where you hesitate. They learn what kind of approval you respond to. They learn how to frame things so you say yes. They learn when you are still forming an opinion. They learn what you are trying to protect. You think you're building trust, sometimes you are. But you are also giving people a psychological user manual. And not everyone reading it is on your side. Some people use information to collaborate. Some use it to compete quietly. Some use it to step in front of the result at the last second. Some use it to avoid risk while letting you absorb it. Some use your transparency to measure exactly how much of your work can be repackaged without looking stolen. That is why sabotage rarely looks dramatic. It looks administrative. A meeting where your idea returns with a different voice attached to it. A project where your insight shaped the strategy, but someone else presented the strategy. A decision where you shared too early. got mined for clarity, and then got excluded from the final positioning. A manager who calls you invaluable, which sounds like praise while paying you like infrastructure. This is how people get stuck for years. Not because they lack skill, because they confuse contribution with accumulation. They keep pouring value into spaces that do not preserve authorship. Then they wonder why they are respected but not advanced, why they are consulted but not elevated, why they are always included in the labor and rarely in the leverage. The system is not asking one question, it is asking two. Can you produce value? And can you keep your value attached to your identity long enough for it to compound? Most people only optimize for the first. That is why they plateau. They become generous in the wrong layer. They share process when they should share outcomes. They share intention when they should share direction. They share uncertainty with people who only know how to convert uncertainty into status. And because modern work keeps preaching openness, they don't realize they are bleeding influence in ways that look virtuous. Transparency sounds ethical. But in many environments, unfiltered transparency is politically expensive. Because every organization runs on selective visibility, not total honesty. Selective visibility. Some things need to be seen. Some things need to be timed. Some things need to be held until they can no longer be separated from you. That is not deception. That is understanding the mechanics of institutional memory. People remember conclusions more than exploration. They remember confidence more than effort. They remember the final sentence more than the 20 useful things said before it. They remember the person who framed the idea cleanly at the decisive moment. If you are always speaking before the moment is ripe, you train people to consume your thinking in fragments. Fragments are easy to steal. Finished frames are harder. This is one reason senior people often talk less, not because they know less, because they understand compression. They do not donate raw cognition into every room. They release only what serves position, timing, or outcome. They let silence do filtering. They let other people reveal themselves first. They watch who rushes to claim, who interrupts, who mirrors, who flatters, who extracts. You may call that political. It is. But politics is just the management of perception under limited trust. And every workplace has limited trust, even when people smile. The dangerous misunderstanding is thinking that being liked for your openness is the same as being protected by it. It isn't. People can enjoy your openness and still benefit from your exposure. They can admire how clear you are and still use that clarity to root around you. They can genuinely appreciate your honesty while unconsciously assigning more authority to the person who speaks less, appears more composed, and enters only when the stakes become visible, because restraint signals something most people cannot fake for long. It signals that your words have a cost. That changes how people listen. If you talk constantly, your words become environment. If you talk selectively, your words become events, and events travel upward. Environment gets taken for granted. This is where the deeper rule appears. At work, being known is not the goal. Being legible in the right way is the goal. If people know too much, they stop projecting power onto you. They start categorizing you, reducing you, predicting you. Mystery is not always about hiding. Sometimes it is about preventing premature simplification, because once people think they fully understand you, they stop reevaluating your range. They lock you into a function. Helpful, reliable, thoughtful, supportive, great in the weeds. All of these can become cages, especially if your openness taught people to associate you with process rather than command. You may be the smartest person in the room, but if the room experiences you mainly as a constant stream of useful context, it will use you as a utility. Utilities are essential. They are not always rewarded like architects. This is why just work hard and communicate fails so many competent people. It ignores the conversion problem. Raw effort does not become status on its own. Useful thinking does not become authority on its own. Even trust does not become leverage on its own. Something has to convert it. Usually that something is framing. Framing decides whether your work looks like support or leadership. Framing decides whether your insight looks like participation or direction. Framing decides whether people feel you are helping the machine or shaping where the machine moves. And overexposure weakens your framing power, because the more often people see you think in public, the easier it becomes to separate your intelligence from your authority. They get accustomed to your labor. They stop feeling the edge of your judgment. You become accessible, then interpretable, then absorbable. That is a dangerous progression, because once your value becomes absorbable, your compensation starts decoupling from your contribution. You keep giving, they keep normalizing, you keep proving, they keep expecting. Soon, the thing that once made you stand out becomes the baseline they assume they can get from you for free. That is how overperformers become underpaid. Not overnight. By gradual perception drift. By making excellence feel available on demand. By removing all friction from access to their thinking. By trying so hard to be seen as collaborative that they erase the boundaries that make expertise expensive. Then one day they realize something humiliating. The people earning more are not always better. They are just harder to mine, harder to read, harder to extract from, harder to bypass, harder to summarize, harder to replace. That does not mean they are dishonest. It means they understand that value exposed too early gets discounted. This is the realization most people resist because it clashes with their identity. You want to believe your openness proves confidence. Your helpfulness proves strength. Your transparency proves maturity. Sometimes it does. But in systems built on competition for limited recognition, those traits need containment. Without containment, they become self-liquidation. You were taught to optimize for being trusted. But trust without boundaries turns you into a resource, not a force. A resource is used. A force is accounted for. That is the identity shift. You do not need to become colder. You do not need to become manipulative. You do not need to play games in the cartoon sense. You need to stop leaking unfinished value into rooms that do not protect origin. You need to notice who earns from clarity and who merely supplies it. You need to notice when speaking creates alignment and when it only creates access. You need to notice the difference between being included in conversation and being included in consequence, because those are not the same thing. A lot of professionals spend years trying to be impossible to ignore. The smarter move is often to become impossible to appropriate. That changes what you share. When you share, how much shape you give something before it leaves your mouth. It also changes how you interpret silence. Silence is not always insecurity. Sometimes it is curation. Sometimes it is the refusal to let others rehearse your value before it matters. Sometimes it is the discipline of not converting every thought into public property. The people who move up fastest often understand one quiet rule. If everyone can access your mind, few will respect its price. So they do not narrate everything. They do not update for emotional comfort. They do not confuse immediate expression with strategic clarity. They do not let the room enjoy the whole architecture before the structure can be tied back to them. They hold shape. They let people feel the outcome before explaining the machinery. They let the result create gravity. Then they speak from the center of it, not to seem mysterious, to prevent dilution. That is the subtle move. Less disclosure, more definition, less broadcasting, more placement, less proving that you are thinking, more making it costly to ignore what your thinking produces. And yes, this can feel uncomfortable, because you may realize you are not being overlooked by accident. You are making yourself easy to consume. You are giving away context where you needed to preserve distinction. You are offering sincerity in systems that convert sincerity into access. You are trying to be visible when you should have been establishing weight. That is why talking less can earn more. Not because the world is fair to quiet people. Because control over information is control over narrative. And control over narrative shapes status long before compensation catches up. In the end, the problem is not that you spoke. It is that you kept mistaking exposure for influence. You thought being fully seen would make you harder to dismiss. Sometimes it only makes you easier to use. And in places where everyone says they value openness, the most expensive thing in the room is often the person who knows exactly what not to reveal. The problem is not that you failed. It is that you became excellent at making other people stronger with your own visibility.